The karma of the week this week is exile karma. So exile karma is very common with, I would say, at least 60% of people that I muscle tested for tested positive. There's so much displacement in the world. This kind of karma is also associated with being outcast, loss of tribe, rejected, abandoned, orphan, homeless, refugee karma, and foreigner karma. Exile is one of the oldest karmas in the world. On the left, we have a picture of Adam and Eve being exiled from the Garden of Eden. And below, we have the Pope delivering his sermon to an empty St. Peter's Square because of the COVID-19 plague. So we're all kind of suffering from exile in this particular era. Even the Dalai Lama has a victim of exile karma, both a victim of political exile and a victim of religious exile, because he was a political leader and also a religious leader, kind of double dose. So even great saints have exile karma often. The world is full of refugees, which is another kind of exile karma. These people have the victim of forced relocation karma, a victim and trauma of losing everything and being forced to start over, and of course, homeless, and a victim of the loss of shelter, survivalistic self-shelters, a lot of karma in the refugee camp these days. Sometimes whole ethnic groups are exiled, as the Jews are, here forced into exile throughout history. As far as I remember, all Jewish people I have muscle tested for exile karma tested positive, and also positive for exile lineage karma. There are very many religious exiles. Here are Protestants being forced into exile, sparking immigration to America and Australia. Exile karma is on the rise lately, as around 20 million people every year are being displaced by climate change. It's really amazing how many people have this very common karma and how much it really does affect and influence their life, both emotionally, in terms of losing their home or their residence or their place or their tribe or their sense of place of belongingness, and also in terms of the way it shapes their life. Saints like Saint Corona here, the patron saint of protection from plagues, lived in exile until she decided to reveal her Christian faith and was then executed by the Romans. Here is a painting of Napoleon in exile on the island of Elba, which is often a punishment instead of execution. Of course, he had a victim and trauma of being forced into exile. Here's a painting depicting Aristotle going into self-exile. So self-exile as a primary defense is somewhat common. It's like, I'm going to get out of Dodge. Exile shows up in the aura as a silver sheen in the outer boundary of the aura. It's almost as if there's a problem really being able to feel connected with others at some sort of level, and the boundary of the aura is like that. In severe cases, a haunting sadness often accompanies the more difficult, severe cases of this karma type. They compartmentalize the ability to feel belongingness and connection. Loneliness, despair, and depression often accompany those who are deeply afflicted. Feelings of being lost and a longing for a home or a homeland that may have never actually existed in this life. In a way, we are all fundamentally exiled from each other by the nature of our wahid, or individual uniqueness, by our own pure, subjective, first-person perspective. You see, we are all alone inside ourselves, exiled in our own state. Here's a translation of the opening lines of the Masnavi, this most famous epic poem by Rumi, who writes about the exile of the soul from God. The reed is the soul torn from the heart of God. Because of the reed being torn, it is able to hollow out and transform into the ney, or the reed flute, which then makes this sad, wailing, longing song to return to its home, the heart of God. A naked soul processing of the feelings of exile is a way of being at one with God's aloneness and sharing this aloneness with all beings. So here's the poem. Hearken to this reed forlorn, breathing ever since 'twas torn. From its rushy bed a strain of impassioned love and pain. The secret of my song, though near, none may see and none may hear. Oh, for a friend who knows the sign, who will mingle all their soul with mine. 'Tis the pain of love that fires me, 'tis the wine of love inspires me. Oh, do you know how lovers bleed? Hearken, hearken to the reed.